Well, good afternoon, everyone. Exciting week ahead, a difficult challenge ahead, heading into Ames to play Iowa State, especially at night. I know they're a terrific home team and been in there in the evening before at different places, and it's always a tough place to play. It's a great environment, and we're going to have great preparation for us to be successful and have to have a great week. Excited about the win as you went and looked at it last week. Did some really good things early in the game, had a lull for sure. Give Texas Tech credit. I think they had a really good plan for us on all three phases of the game. And then late in the third quarter, I think once Deuce had his big run, we finally started to at least figure a few things out from the run game and blocking some of their pressures and made some explosive plays. Then on defense, we were able to create some turnovers, especially in that second half. Felix had a really big play. Julius had a really big play, and we needed those because the tempo was getting to us a little bit with the heat and stuff, and just glad to get out of there with a win and move on to the next week. And winning on the road is tough, as we know.
With Khalid Duke, you had him a lot near the line of scrimmage, chasing the quarterback quite a bit more last week. Is that kind of a change in general for him, or was that game dependent?
That was game dependent. We have to continue to look at that. But with some of the things that we thought Texas Tech was giving us, we wanted to get him into the fit or closer to the action. And so, yeah, we have to continue to look at it. I don't know if that's first down, because we were doing that in early downs, or is that more third down? I don't know what Coach Klieman and the defensive staff will think of this week. But obviously him having the production he had, playing some defensive end and even some D-tackle at times really helped us.
Iowa State's kind of credited with starting that 3-3-5 scheme and
Yeah.
the momentum towards that. Do you keep that in mind when you're kind of deploying that against them this week?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure it probably helps them, too, from an offensive standpoint. As far as what you've practiced all spring and fall, there's some differences. There's some similarities for sure, and there's some differences. There's some different wrinkles. They've had so much success in this system and are obviously further along in it than we are, and have probably more adjustments than we do. But it'll be a challenge. It's probably easier for us to coach the scout team on defense more than anything, of calling our calls that are at least close to what they would do.
With them kind of having the program and culture that they have now under Coach Campbell and almost being desperate for a win at this point, is it easy to sell your guys that this is the best version of Iowa State that you're going to get?
Well, we know we're going to get the best version of Iowa State. This is a big game for both programs. Tremendous amount of respect for Coach Campbell. He does a phenomenal job and has there for an awful long time. And he'll have those guys ready to play. I know that, and we talk about it every week. It really doesn't matter in this league what happens the previous week. You better make sure that you prepare and have great focus and have your best plans and your kids execute at a high level, or you're not going to win in this league.
Adrian has obviously been very effective as a runner the last 2 weeks. We've seen his running ability. I'm just wondering, how much has it helped to have an offensive coordinator who ran that play himself very successfully at this school?
I think it does help. I think us finding different ways to get him the football in space as well as Deuce makes it more difficult to defend us. And last week was very unique. There were some more scrambles the week before against Oklahoma. Obviously, there was a few quarterback runs. We had a number of quarterback runs on the card, but didn't really get to them until we saw how Texas Tech was going to play us, and that was the one thing that we thought maybe as the game progressed that they were short was the quarterback player, and so we just had to go to more of it.
Now that you put that on video the last 2 weeks, I'm guessing Iowa State's going to do everything they can to stop that. How do you keep it going if the defense does find ways to
and it's every week's going to be different, and how teams are trying to attack us, just like how we're trying to attack other teams. You're going to be strong in some areas, and it's us having the ability to find whatever that not that weakness is, whatever that area is that we can attack. And obviously for us moving forward, is it going to be the throw game? When you play so much what we would call single high, you're short in the quarterback run game. And when you play more split safety looks, which is what Iowa State does, even though it's 3 across, just like us, you tend to account for the quarterback more in those split safety looks. And so we have to be able to have our passing game in a plan based on what we see from them to be efficient, to be explosive at times, but more than anything, to be able to help us if people are going to try to put everybody in the box to stop the running game with the quarterback and the running back.
Also want to ask about Xavier Hutchinson. What have you seen that makes him so good for Iowa State?
Well, he's targeted an awful lot. He's been there a while. He's been a really good player for a number of years. Very impressed with him. Competitive guy, attacks the football, really good run after the catch, really good at the line of scrimmage, getting off press, and they make him a focal point of their offense for good reason. He's a difference maker that probably got overshadowed by all the guys that had been there the last couple of years. That are playing at the next level, but he's one of the best in the Big 12 and probably in the country.
You're nearing the midpoint of the season, and you're near the top of the country in turnover margin. I was curious what the keys have been to that success this season.
Well, we need to win the turnover margin. That's a big recipe for success when the wins and losses happen, and us, finding ways, even though we're giving up too many explosive plays on defense without question. We have to limit the explosives, and we've played some good offenses with some good quarterbacks, receivers that have been able to get the explosive play, but we've been able to overcome that by creating a turnover somewhere along the line. So we emphasize the heck out of it, as well as Colin and the offensive staff continuing to preach how important it is not to turn the football over and change momentum. And we had one turnover last week that we were lucky able to stop them after that. But those are momentum-changing plays, and we have to eliminate them, and we have to continue to get them on defense.
There's been an improvement in your third down defense from a year ago as well. I was just curious what's working in that department this year with the improvement.
Well, we have been better on third down. It still comes down to trying to get them into third and long. And not have we had too many third, 1, 2, and 3 last year, which is offense has got the great advantage there. We've been better on third down, but we still have given up too many explosive plays on early downs. And so, that's going to be our focal point, is to try to eliminate some of the explosives and continue to be good on third.
Coach, when you look at the way your defensive line has played this year so far, what kind of impresses you the most about the success that they've had?
The amount of guys we're playing, the amount of guys that have made plays, that we're rotating guys in, and just how hard, how physical they play. They play with an edge. Coach Tui and Coach Wyatt do a phenomenal job of rotating guys, as well as coming up with some different plans based on a player's technique offensively to try to put guys in position to be successful. And you see Eli and Felix; those are the two that are making a bunch of plays. But whether it's Mott, whether it's Pickle, whether it's Dehance, whether it's Uso, whether it's Nate, we have so many guys that can help us in there. And I think our rotating guys is keeping guys fresh, which helps, as well as those two coaches doing a great job teaching techniques.
Kind of got Khalid Duke now playing in a little bit of a rush spot like you did last week. How much of a boost is that to the pressure that the defensive line is able to create?
Well, I think it helps guys like Felix for sure. Putting those two on the same side a few times, like we did last week, you may have slid the protection a few times, but allowed one of them to have a one-on-one, which they're two pretty dynamic guys that usually can win some of those one-on-ones. And we have to continue to find different ways to utilize Khalid. We're still going to play him in our coverage stuff, but try to find different ways to utilize him in the rush game as well. I don't know if that's, like I said, I don't know if that's first down or if that's third down stuff, but he's one of our best 11, and we just got to try to find ways to get him on the field in different places.
What are the complexities of that Iowa State defense? They replaced, I think, every linebacker, and it seems like they haven't missed a beat this year.
Yeah, I think it starts up front. They're disruptive as heck. They've got one of the best defensive ends in college football, which always helps. We do too. That helps when you got a difference maker at defensive end, and both teams do. And then just the amount of time that those guys have been in the system and understand it, as well as the amount of film you have from guys like Mike Rose doing it the right way, and understanding where the fits are, where the strengths of the defenses are, and limiting some of the weaknesses. It's just a system that is really comfortable for their players, and they just seem like the next guy that comes in has learned from the previous one, and it's a defense that's very aggressive, very opportunistic, and is year in and year out one of the best defenses in the league.
Is there a potential to see Will Honus anytime soon?
I don't believe so. I think the injuries that Will has had are probably not going to allow him to move forward. We're still holding out hope, but he's had quite a bit of damage on some injuries throughout his time, and it's been tough on him. I know that. It's been really hard because he's been in every game, every practice, and it's probably not responding the way that he hoped it would.
And is Eli Huggins good to go for Saturday?
Yeah, he's full go.
Just your thoughts on Hunter Deckers and what he does well.
Well, impressed with Hunter. We recruited him. He'd been on our campus, competitor, can throw the deep ball, throw the short ball. He's elusive. This is only his fifth or sixth start, and so maybe some of the plays that he would want back or something. It just takes time with everybody to develop, and I think he's a terrific football player. I just know the competitor that he is, and we'll have our hands full because he's not a runner, not a thrower. He's a dual threat guy that causes a lot of problems on the edge, as well as I think he reads defenses really well, and I think he looks people off and doesn't lock into receivers, and they've hit some explosive plays. So I think he's a really good quarterback that's continuing to learn as a first-year starter.
Question about Austin Moore. Seems like a lot of times this season he's been in the right place at the right time. Have you seen him make many mistakes or lose many plays?
Yeah, he could probably tell you the plays that he does miss because he's that kind of guy. And the amount of work that he put in the offseason, not only on his body, but on understanding defense or offenses and understanding our defense, how much he learned from Cody Fletcher was so invaluable for the kid. Cody taught him so much, and he's taken that and really playing at really an all-conference level. Austin's playing as well as anybody we have on defense, and he doesn't make mistakes. He made an unbelievable play on the 4th and short in the first quarter, or that thing might spit for a big gain, and he chases it down from behind. But so happy with the way Austin's playing.
Coach, the last two times you've played Iowa State hasn't exactly gone your way. Is there a little added emphasis this week on kind of getting the ship straightened?
No, I don't really play into that. Whatever you did last year against a team, or 2 years ago or 3 years ago on a team, really has no bearing on what this year is. It's a new team. It's a new year. Doesn't matter the teams we've had success against or the teams that we've not had success against through my entire career. I've just never really let that enter my mind. We just got to play a really good Iowa State team and get our guys prepared.
You spent a lot of time in Iowa. K-State and Iowa State, very similar. Fans have called it Farmageddon. I'm just curious, what is it about Iowa State and K-State, in your opinion, that makes the school so similar?
We're proximity. We're not that far apart. We do battle them in recruiting quite a bit. They do a really good job, and it seems like a lot of the Midwest kids that they're on, we're on, and vice versa. And we get some, they get some. We know a lot of the players. There's, I think, really good respect amongst the coaching staffs that both staffs are doing it the right way. And, it's not the easiest place to win in Manhattan. It's not the easiest place sometimes to win in Ames, and you have to have the right kind of guys, and you have to have guys that believe in what you're doing and believe in each other and believing in the culture and believing in the commitment that both universities have to football. I think that's what impresses me about Iowa State, impresses me about Kansas State. It's not always the 5-star kids. It's the kids that want to play their tail off for their school and for their brother in the locker room, and great respect for what they've done.
Coach, 66% of your plays over the last 5 games on offense have been rushing plays. From an analytics standpoint, how important is it to either lean into that or balance it out?
If we're going to rush for 340, not a bit. And if you have that kind of production and explosive plays, we should have run the ball more. But obviously, from an analytics standpoint, people are going to say, okay, how do we slow that down and make them throw it? And that's the chess match of football that all of us are dealing with on a week in, week out basis, and sometimes in-game basis. What are people taking away? What are they giving you? Both sides of the ball. There's some things that we're not doing very well on defense that even though you'd say the next team doesn't do, we better shore that up or somebody is going to beat us with it. And, that's the chess match that's great about college football. And the analytics are a big part of it, are important to it, but you still got to make in-game adjustments, and you have to go with a gut feeling sometimes. I went with a gut feeling this week on a 4th and 5 where it was a to-go deal. And we had just had a 3rd and 5 where we thought we could have had a completion and we didn't. And the analytics said go. My gut told me to punt the football. Whether it worked out or not, we won the game, so it's easier to look back and say, I could have done something different there. But sometimes the flow of the game doesn't consider analytics.
You talked about gut feeling. You said at halftime you got after the guys a little bit. Last week, I think Adrian said you were pretty fired up.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd kind of read the room, or how many times can you go to something like that in a year?
Well, I don't go to it very much for starters because you don't need to with these type of guys. But I probably saw the same thing that 50-plus thousand did and all you guys did, that we had a 13-0 lead that could have been 20-0. And we all know that when those things happen, it tends to flip, and somehow it got to 13-10 at half with all the momentum on their side, and I just didn't see a lot of life in the guys, and I saw not panic, but I just kind of like shell-shocked, kind of like probably you guys were, to say we had a chance to put this thing not maybe away, but make it a 3-score lead at least, and we didn't. And I've been in this business, and you've seen enough things as well, that when you don't and you let somebody back into it, it doesn't usually work out. And we talked about having, how are you going to respond? How are you guys going to respond? I probably said it a little bit more direct than that, but how are you going to respond to the adversity that you just have? Because they have all the momentum, and even though we didn't start off great in the 3rd quarter, and it took us a little bit, nobody did panic, and then once we started to hit some of those explosive plays, it's a game of momentum. And you saw the life come back into the sideline on Deuce's run, and then from there we kind of took off.
Also wanted to ask you about Drake Cheatham. That's 2 guys now from Prairie View that had success with. Was there, had you seen him when you were scouting Stubblefield, or how did that come
No, but I think
about?
Reg knows a lot of people, if you can imagine that. Reggie knows some people. And I think Reggie put us on him. There was a guy that was at North Dakota State with Gene Taylor and I named Delane Myers. I'll give a shout out to Delane. Delane's a VP down at Prairie View, and was friends with him at North Dakota State. And he's one that's easy to call and say, can you tell me about Reggie? Can you tell me about Drake? And when Delane gave them the stamp, it was pretty simple for me that they would fit here.
What do you think he's given you this year?
Tons of snaps, tons of experience, a guy that loves football, He's a junkie. He's up there like Kobe Savage is all the time, and Josh Hayes and those guys, some of those newer players that want to keep learning more about the game. He's an unselfish guy. He's playing a little bit more than Sincere, but both he and Sincere are playing, and they complement each other really well. I think Drake's excited about the opportunity he's been given to play Power 5 football at a place like this where football really matters, and the fan base loves football, and the community loves football, and he's having a lot of fun out there.
You mentioned this a second ago, but it seems like everybody now is going for it on fourth down way more than they did even 2-3 years ago. Yeah. How much does that change the way you coach games, knowing that that's probably going to happen more every Saturday?
Yeah, well, we knew it going into Texas Tech that they were going to go for it. The first fourth down, we knew it. We had calls, and we prepped calls pretty quickly during the week, meaning we would simulate a 3rd and 6, get a 4-yard gain, and come right back on the ball and go for it on 4th and 2. So we had some calls that Coach Klieman knew he was going to make to try to get us lined up. I think that helped us a bunch for starters. And then secondly, it's still a game of possessions. How many possessions are there? How many possessions do you still have left? I watched just a very little of Baylor and Oklahoma State, but Baylor goes for it on 4th down as much or more than anybody does. And they threw maybe a 70-yard touchdown or something on a 4th and 5, I think it was, in the third quarter. I know they were down, but that's the thing. If you give it up, maybe they score, maybe they don't, but you lose 3 or 4 minutes, you probably lost a possession. That's what it comes down to.
You also mentioned last week that Adrian Lara, hope I'm saying that name right,
yep.
Had impressed you on the scout team. What's he doing there that's caught your eye?
He's got unbelievable arm talent. Throwing the ball from hash to the opposite sideline. Granted, it's scout team stuff, and we're running cards, and he's delivering the ball. He puts it in tight windows. I'm excited for him as a young player. I don't know how that translates to our offense. We'll find out a little bit in the open week. But he's doing a really good job. We've got a number of wide receivers there that challenge our guys. It's fun because we have a really good deep group of scout team wide receivers and a quarterback that likes to throw it around on the scout team, and that's going to do nothing but help us as we keep moving forward.
Iowa State statistically one of the best run defenses in the country and in the conference. Texas Tech was up there as well until last week.
Yeah.
After having such success against Texas Tech last week, does that kind of help confidence-wise moving into another stout run defense like Iowa State?
It all, and I don't know all of Texas Tech's previous opponents as far as the quarterback run stuff. That's the whole thing is, if you have the ability to run the quarterback on design runs or on scrambles, it stresses a run defense. It really does. And I think we probably had more design runs than a lot of teams that they had played. And so that was just part of our game plan. Iowa State's going to be a different look for us. It's going to be way different configuration as far as the front, the linebackers, and the secondary. And I know they're going to try to take it away. That's why we have to have more options than what we had on Saturday once that game started to take shape the way it did.
You mentioned how you were impressed with what Gavin Forshea did in his first kind of extended stay on the field. Looking back at the film now, was there anything else that kind of stood out from what he did?
I thought he was calm. I didn't think he had a lot of trade shift and motions that and tempo stuff that I think he'll get better and learn from. But I thought he was calm. And I didn't think the stage was at all too big for him. He made a couple really good plays. I think that playing those substantial snaps, in the fourth quarter, he was on the field, Uso was on the field, Jacob Parrish was on the field, VJ Payne were on the field in the fourth quarter together. And those are guys that I mentioned that we're going to need as we go through this grind of the next couple months. And so to get those guys valuable snaps early enough in conference play so that if you have one of those games where they have to maybe take the lion's share of the reps because of an injury or something, that they're prepared for it.
First time in school history, you have 2 guys with 3 sacks. How special were Felix and Duke?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that until a little while after the game. I knew that we'd had a number of negative plays against him. But that's what we hoped for. Maybe not 6. We hoped for a few sacks and a lot of pressure with the game plan that we had for Texas Tech and trying to attack some of the protections that they had with those two. But that was pretty unique. I did not know that was the first time in school history either.
And how pleased were you that Khalid got Defensive Player of the Week?
Yeah, how about that? Kid doesn't even participate in fall camp, and he's on week 5, and he gets Player of the Week in the league, and just continues to show the growth that he has, the strength coming back in from his injury, all that stuff. I'm excited to see Khalid playing at a level that I knew he could play at. I think we all knew that was in him. I know he was playing a different position, but when he is going a million miles an hour like he was on Saturday, he's hard to block.
Chris, are there finer points to defending a left-handed quarterback?
There are probably more coaching points as far as scramble and rush and where you're trying to get a guy to flush out. That part of it, yes. But, the game is still going to be played the same as far as, run game and different looks. I mean, we boot to the left just like we would boot to the right. They do the same. But some of the scramble and rush lanes maybe. Yep. Well, you make sure and grab Noah. He's a strength and conditioning intern for us now. And he's down quite a bit of weight, looks really good. Looks like a power lifter now. And so Noah's around all the time. But Gilly has taken over where Noah was at. And so Gilly's kind of this year's Noah and doing a pretty good job of replicating some of the things that Noah did as far as the energy at practice. He gets the guys going. But it's fun to have Noah back with our team.
Adrian said he was looking to, or the offense was looking to improve on turning turnovers into points.
Yep.
I was wondering, how do you go about doing that?
I think Coach Klein would agree, and we talked about it. Maybe our sequencing of some plays would help us in that time. During those couple times, we can't get behind the sticks. When I say behind the sticks, we can't get to 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11 or have a false start and be 1st and 15. And that hurts when you're trying. And sometimes when you get a turnover, you take a shot. And you take a shot and it's a big play, it's great. You take a shot and you either give up a sack or it's incomplete, you're 2nd and 10, and then you're behind the chains a little bit. And it's something that you don't want to overemphasize. It's like starting the first half or starting the second half and some of those things. But we know we've got to capitalize when we do get the turnovers.
After missing previous opportunities, do you think it hurts the players' confidence moving forward with that aspect?
No, I don't think it does. Our guys are playing with a lot of confidence right now and a lot of belief. I think that's the biggest thing. They're playing with such great belief in each other and in the plans that they feel like, hey, we're just got to stay the course and stay patient, and we'll find a way.